Okay, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As we talked about in class today, we are now starting our Age of Exploration unit. This is the second unit that we will have done this flipped classroom style, and this time will be no different. So we're going to go ahead and kick off our early exploration unit with a nice little presentation here. It's quick, it's clean, it's efficient, and it's on Christopher Columbus. So for the presentation, I would like you to go ahead and take out a piece of paper. We'll take some notes. I'll point out the content that I kind of want you to keep in mind for class, because we're going to do some activities tomorrow that will kind of correlate with this presentation. But if you got a paper and a pen, let's go ahead and get started. So this is Christopher Columbus, one of the first explorers. So our objective for today is students will be able to describe the journey of Christopher Columbus and the results of his voyage, as well as the lasting effects of his discoveries. So to get her kicked off here, Columbus was born in Genoa, Italy in 1451. I do want you to go ahead and write this down. This might pop up on a little pop quiz or assessment, just to kind of put into reference what time frame we're talking about here. Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, things like that. But he was born in 1451, Genoa, Italy. So although he was born in Italy, Christopher Columbus actually sailed under the Spanish crown. And honestly, it was because they were the only ones that were crazy enough to listen to him. We'll kind of talk about his ideas later in the presentation here in a couple slides. But he had some very, very abstract ideas compared to other people of his time. So what was he looking for? What did he want? Christopher Columbus, he wanted to find a new trade route to Asia, so that Spain or whoever would sign him on would be able to connect with the riches of China and India, and they'd be able to access those areas a lot easier if they could find a route that was quicker than going around the Horn of Africa. And obviously, as we know from our geography, Africa is directly below Spain, so if they wanted to get to China or India, they would have to go all the way down and around Africa, which was very, very dangerous, and it took a very long time. It took a very, very long time, and it made it very tough to get to Asia. It was actually almost more efficient and quicker to go over land than it was to go by sea, because of the problem with having to go around Africa. So when I was talking earlier about how people thought he was crazy, so Columbus's idea was that he was going to get in a boat and sail west, and that was it. He was going to sail west. He was going to keep sailing west until he found Asia, and he obviously had no concept of A, how big the Earth actually was, and B, that there was land in between Spain and Asia if you go west, which is obviously North America, and he would find that out shortly after. So some notes to take from this slide is why he wanted to do it. So he wanted to find a new trade route so he could exploit the riches of China and India, and he also, I would like you to throw in there that his idea was that he was going to sail west and just sail west, and kind of keep in the back of your mind, we'll talk about it tomorrow, why that was and why he thought that would work and kind of what came from that. So where did he actually go? He never, contrary to what people say, he never actually made it to North America, ever. He was not the first person to discover North America. He never landed in Florida. He never landed in present-day Washington or Maine or nothing like that. He never was on the mainland of North America. He actually landed in the Bahamas, San Salvador to be exact. He also, once he made hit San Salvador, he then kind of went through the chain of islands, and he went to Cuba, Hispaniola, and Hispaniola, there would actually be a colony made on Hispaniola during the first voyage, and it would be finished after his second voyage, that he kind of governed down there in Hispaniola, and it was basically a plantation colony, and there was some slavery that was a big part of that. But that colony came about because the Santa Maria actually wrecked on their first trip, which was one of the main boats of the first three to go on the famous 1492 Christopher Columbus voyage. It was a wreck at Cape Huyton. The Santa Maria was shipwrecked off the coast of Cape Huyton, and Hispaniola would become the new location for a nice colony. So when Christopher Columbus actually first landed in San Salvador, this is another concept that people don't understand. Christopher Columbus was a slave trader. He wasn't some high and mighty, preach the Bible, all that. He was a slave trader and an explorer, which was not uncommon for this time. But when he first landed in San Salvador, he met up with the Taino people. They were very peaceful people, and they were big into letting strangers into your home. Basically, is what it would be the equivalent to. And obviously, it kind of came back to nip him in the butt a little bit. Upon Columbus's return to Spain, 1,500 men, women, and children of the Taino people were taken into slavery in his first journey. So that's, if you think about that, that's a lot of people. From the town that I'm from, population is just over 2,000. So that's over 3/4 of the town would be gone. And this would kind of be the start of a pretty big slave trade between the Old World and the New World. So here's kind of this is where I really want you to take some notes. Just this big concept of the Columbian Exchange. We're going to kind of skip over these last 3 bullets here. They proved the vessels could make the journey. Christopher Columbus thought he'd landed off Asia. Obviously he didn't, and it opened the door for future voyages, which the Columbian Exchange and the opening the door for future voyages, those are the 2 really big concepts that I would like you to go ahead and write down. So the Columbian Exchange is this concept that we were exchanging goods from the New World to the Old World to the New World. However you want to look at it, there was an intermingling of cultures that the effects are still seen today. The next slide will kind of go over that a little bit more. And then as far as opening the door for future voyages, he discovered new land, and the conquistadors that would come in the 1500, Cortez's famous trips, destroying the Aztecs and all that, the South America voyages with the Incans, and that would basically all stem off of this trip from Christopher Columbus. People found out, hey, we can make it over there, hey, there's land over there, and it became a heyday for early explorers. And here's a picture of the Columbian Exchange, and basically what I want you to do right now is at the top of in a blank space in your notes, just go ahead and write down Columbian Exchange. If you have already written kind of like what it is, just go ahead and put this underneath it, and just kind of draw Europe on one side of your paper, on the right side of your paper, and then you can do North America, you can do New World, whatever you want to do on the left side of your paper, and just kind of draw 2 arrows like they're shown in the picture here, and just so you can kind of grasp the idea that it was basically just a trade of goods between Europe, the New World, and the New World and Europe. And if you go ahead and look at the picture here, you can kind of see some of the stuff. Some of it might surprise you. From the New World, from the Old World to the New World, cattle, chickens, horses, pigs, all those things were not native to North America and the new area that Christopher Columbus found, and we still see those today. Cattle is a huge industry, chicken's a huge industry, pigs are a huge industry because that's where we get our meat, and there's a lot of ranching in the West, and there's a lot of horses pretty much all across the country, including wild horses. I got wild horses around where I live. There's a big herd that's 200 plus of just wild horses, and those came from the Spanish. Some things that came from New World to Old World, things like potatoes, pumpkins, pineapples, peanuts, corn, tobacco was a huge one, turkeys. That's not so big in Europe, but turkeys are still in Europe, and all these things it was all stemmed off of Christopher Columbus's first trip. He brought goods back, he brought things with him, and it's just this concept of culture intermingling that kind of gave birth to this whole new idea of sharing cultures and bringing things that weren't there before and putting them there, and kind of trying to make the New World just like Europe is basically what it can be summed up to, And so if you have that written down, that's great. We'll go over this again in class tomorrow. Uh, another big concept is so this the the arrows from old to new and new to old. This would also be the exact shape of the slave trade that would boom after Christopher Columbus's trip. They would. So it wasn't only goods being exchanged; it was people. The slave trade really kicked off, and there was a lot of slaves being brought from the New World to the Old World. Not so much old to new, but this was kind of the route that it would take. And it would basically become a triangle between Africa, the New World, and Europe. Um,